Hello, Faizan. Are we live?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So,
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining today. So, I would first of all like to congratulate you all. We have received award today. The award was announced last week, but we have received it today from the Computer Society of India, and the award is to Cyber Secured India uh, in the category of Outstanding Cybersecurity Training and Awareness Initiative. As you all know, we are a non-profit initiative, and with the help of all of your core team members, our esteemed speakers, our empaneled mentors, empaneled speakers, and all the people who are working in the back end and front end and everyone, we are really thankful. We express our gratitude and to all the interns who are past interns, who are present interns, and everyone with the from the CSI family. Congratulations to all, and thank you very much once again for joining this program. Let us just a minute. So just I will say this is just a start. We will be going more ahead nationally and internationally both. Uh, at the last month, we were invited to NAS Summit Dubai, and there are many more things which are coming in the future also. We'll keep you guys posted, and let us take this work ahead. That is what I'll say, and I'll not take your much time. I'll hand it over to our today's speaker, Agniba sir. Thank you for joining, and please take it.
with the same enthusiasm of winning this award and getting recognized internationally and across the globe. So let's move ahead with our today's topic: cross-site cross-site request project and server-side template injection, CSRF and SSTI. So for today's session, as Nikhil sir stated, we have Agniva Datta sir with us. He is a cybersecurity researcher, bug hunter, and expert with an experience in web application penetration testing, API penetration testing, alongside network penetration testing and content creation. Being EJPT certified, he has also hacked and secured many big organizations like Sony, Acronis, NASA, alongside 20 others. So we are glad to have you here, sir. I would just like to thank you for being here and invest your time with us. And I would just like to hand over the session for you.
Thank you guys for once again inviting me to do the session. And thanks to Cyber India and thanks to Nikhil sir. And congratulations to CSI team for getting the award. So today we'll be starting with the session CSRF on cross-site request forgery. And after that, we'll be go for SSTI or server-side template injection. So our first topic will be CSRF or cross-site request forgery. So let me share my screen, and we are going to get a deeper insight of what this is all about and how we can actually try to find CSRF vulnerabilities out in the wild and how to exploit it. Okay, so CSRF or cross-site request forgery. It's a web security vulnerability that allows an attacker to induce users to perform action that they do not intend to perform. It allows an attacker to partly circumvent the same origin policy or SOP, which is designed to prevent different websites from interfering with each other. So basically, CSRF is a type of attack where the attacker causes the victim user to carry an out of an action unintentionally while that particular user is authenticated. Okay, so we can understand the thing by this particular diagram. Let's suppose this is an attacker, this is a victim, and the victim has an account in this particular web application. Now this web application is running a banking application. You can say it can be any banking application that you use. Now, suppose you are this particular victim, I am this attacker, and you have an account on this bank application. Now, you are trying, there is a feature in the application, in the account part, where there is a function to change your email. Now, I visited the application and I saw that particular endpoint. Now, what I will do, I saw that there is no protection against CSRF attacks. Means what kind of protection I am talking about? Like while you are changing the email of that particular account, there is no CSRF token or there is no authentication mechanism that the server is actually verifying whether you are that particular person who is changing the email or some other person is actually sending that particular request in order to change the email. So there is no verification, something like this from the server point. And this particular thing can exactly be exploited by an attacker. So what he will do, he will create a simple POC, like a proof of concept. So he will code a simple sample page of the same with the same URL of that particular account page, and he will send that particular script to you via any kind of link. And whenever you will just click on the link, your email will get changed to that attacker's email or my email if I am the attacker. So unknowingly, whenever you will click on a link, you will later you will see that your banking email has changed. And now I have a full account takeover of your particular bank account. So this is how a CSRF attack generally occurs. We can explain this in much simple terms. So as you can see, this is the attacker. And this is the victim. Victim has certain cookies, as victim is already logged into this particular application, and generally he hasn't log out from that application, and he's normally doing other tasks. And that particular endpoint has this kind of URL, https:/bank.com/email/change, then email equal to attacker at email equal to something. Now, what attacker will do, he will simply create an HTML page of it with the same link. He will just change the email to his own controlled email and will send and will host that particular script in some page, and they will generate a link of it, and he will send that particular link to the victim. And whenever victim will click on that particular link, the email will get updated and it will make a complete account takeover of the banking application of the victim. Now, what are the generally impact of an CSRF attacks? So depending on the functionality in the application that is being exploited, the impact can be high, low, or none. So it completely depends on the CIA triad, whether how confidentiality, whether how if the confidentiality is compromised, or the integrity is compromised, or the availability of exploit is compromised, anything. So what that means, like you can say, if the CSRF attack is done on a page which is very sensitive, like an email change page or a password change page, something like that. So on this particular endpoint, these are very sensitive, as this can make a complete account takeover, so the risk will be high. But if the same CSRF attack is performed on endpoint like your username, or let's not say about username, let's say something your name or your profile picture, then your profile picture might get changed by an attacker, but that is not much sensitive. That is not damaging very large to you. Okay, so he is just able to change your profile picture or name, but he can't make any transaction or can't make an account takeover. So at that point, its confidentiality is medium or low, and none it will be if he is able to do certain actions on some page which are completely irrelevant, which actually doesn't need any kind of protection. Even if it's not protected by any CSRF tokens or any authentication, the attacker wouldn't be able to do anything right. Then the confidentiality will be none at that particular point of time. So these are the impacts. Now we already know about the WASP top 10. So how they have categorized CSRF in 2010, 2013, and 2017. In recent edition in 2021, there is no separate category for CSRF. But if you look at the previous category, then you can see CSRF was there in 5th position in 2010. So at the time of 2010, it was CSRF was going to found large. People are getting a lot of CSRF at that particular point. In 2013, we can see the level 5 has decreased to into 8. So people are getting CSRF comparatively less, and the risk of CSRF is much less in 2013. This means web application developer or DevOps teams have found a way in order to mitigate CSRF, and so they are implementing certain mechanisms, certain tokens, which we will see in the latter part, like what are the mitigation for CSRF. But they are applying that particular checklist in order to prevent CSRF attack. That's why it has come down to 8. And in the 2017, there is no CSRF. You can see that means CSRF is not listed in 2017 checklist. This means that CSRF is not a prevalent vulnerability in 2017, like not to be listed in top 10. Yes. Though CSRF is still there today and still found in the wide number of application, but comparatively things has gone low, and there are people have get a lot of ways in order to prevent CSRF vulnerability. But still today CSRF vulnerability we can found in a lot of web applications that are out in the wild, and we can perform even critical actions. But the risk, which was high in 2010 or 2013 duration, things had come to a little bit of low. Now, what are the how we can find CSRF vulnerability? It depends on the perspective of testing. If we are doing a complete black box testing, we have to find CSRF in certain way. And if we are doing white box testing, means we already have the backend code, then we can take certain mechanism in order to see if there is CSRF protection or not. For black box testing perspective, we need to map the application first, review all the key functionality in the application, identify all the application functions that satisfy the following 3 conditions: a relevant action, a cookie-based session handling, and no unpredictable request parameter. So when we are testing for CSRF, at first what we need to do, we need to map the target web application. We need to check all the endpoints, and we need to check 3 conditions at first: whether this particular endpoint has a relevant action, means this is sensitive or not, and then we need to check if the session token is being handled via any kind of cookie. That we need to check if the session token is handled via cookie. And third, whether it is predictable request parameter or unpredictable request parameter. Like if the request parameter is equal to /email equal to something, then the request parameter is just predictable. It can be very unpredictable with something like if it's instead of something email equal to something, it will be something at the rate like AADK or ABCD something at email equal to something, then it will be quite unpredictable to guess. Next is we can create a POC script to exploit CSRF. We can use IMG tag with SRC attribute, then set to vulnerable URL. We'll see the POC, how we can create POC later on. Then we can emerge post request form with hidden field, all the required parameter and the target we need. Okay, so that's how we will create a POC. And coming to the white box testing perspective, what we will do if we had do a white box pen testing in order to find CSRF or to mitigate CSRF. So in case of white box pen testing, at first we need to identify the framework that is being used by the application. Then we should find out how this framework defend against CSRF attacks. Okay, like if we are using JavaScript or if you are using JSON, if you are using React in to develop any application, if you are using like content XML or if you are using content as JSON, then we need to understand how this framework works. Then we need to check if this framework has some inbuilt functionality to prevent CSRF attack. Like if it is running, if you are making the content on application JSON, then automatically the chance of exploiting a CSRF will be very low, because exploiting a web page which is based on application JSON is quite tough, because JSON CSRF are very hard to exploit. Okay, so that we need to check. Then if it's running on XML or other, then we need to apply certain mechanism. Then we need to check for code to ensure that the built-in defenses have not been disabled, like whether there is a CSRF token is there, or there is XSRF token is there, or there is a separate header, or there if the referrer header is checking whether it is coming from the same part or not. We need to check whether same origin policy is being defined or not. Something like this. We need to check each and every code, and we need to understand like what if the certain built-in functionality or defenses are being properly set or not. So review all sensitive functionality to ensure that CSF defense has been applied. Then we need to review all the sensitive functionality in order to ensure that CSRF defense has properly been applied. Next is how to exploit CSRF vulnerabilities. So we can think of a scenario like this, where we can see exploiting CSRF vulnerabilities get scenario. So this is a get request where you can see https:/bank.com/email change followed by the email we want to change. Okay, and you can see the page where there is an username, there is an email, and after put your desired email, when you click on update email, the request you will get something like this. Now we can create a simply exploit like this just by putting the same URL into image src tag, and then what we'll do, we'll host this particular script in a certain application, or you can see you can host this particular script in a certain server, and you will get a link and this send this particular link to your victim, and whenever the victim will click on the link, he will just see hello world and image src is in the background, but in the background the attacker's email, like the email of that particular banking application of the victim, will get changed. He will just, whenever he will open the application, he will see just nothing, just the hello world, but in the backend what will happen, the email will get certainly updated. So this is how we can exploit CSRF vulnerabilities in a simple way. In case of post scenario, we also can change like this. Like the post scenario, you can see the post method will be, there is something post/email/change followed by the host, and there will be email. It will the interface is similar. We can create an exploit of post scenario just like this. As you can see, the same thing, and then we'll just upload it in a certain web server. We'll get the link and we will send it to the victim. And whenever victim will click on the link, this will get updated. What are the automation exploited tools to find CSRF? We can use Bobsuit, we can use Arachne, Wapiti, WhatsApp, Acunities, and WAP in order to find CSRF. But this web vulnerability scanner generally are not very much effective in order to find CSRF. If the CSRF is very basic kind of CSRF, then they will be able to find it. But if it's a complex CSRF, which is present in nowadays, like there are some already built-in defenses, like already developers have made the way very much secured, then in order to exploit such CSRF scenarios, we can't depend on web vulnerability scanner tools. Then what we need to do, we need to perform those things manually. We will come to the prevention later on, but at first let's go and solve some labs on Portugal and see how we can actually exploit CSRF. So I am going to solve 4 labs of CSRF and I will show you. So one thing I forgot to tell, what is the impact of a CSRF attack? So we already know we can change, the attacker can cause the victim to carry out an action unintentionally, for example, to change the email address on their account, to change their password, to make a fund transfer. Depending on the nature of action, the attacker might be able to gain full control over the user account by changing email, as we told. If the compromised user has a privileged role within the application, then the attacker might be able to take full control of the application data and functionality. So let's just hover over to the CSRF labs. And I'll just start with the first one. So you can see they are telling this lab email change functionality is vulnerable to CSRF. To solve the lab, we have to craft a CSRF attack in order to change the viewer email address and upload it in our exploit server. So they have already given a server where we can upload our form and then it will automatically get updated. So let's just access the lab. We are already given a credential also. So let's just open the lab and we have opened the lab. Let's go to my account and we'll log in as winner. Peter. See. Now what we need to do, we need to perform a CSRF. So I will open verb suite. Now, what I will do, I will turn my verb to intercept on, and intercept is also turned here on. Next, what I will do, I will update the email. So they have not given any email where we can upload it. So we can just go on this. Intercept, click on update email. And let's just go to this particular app. See. Now, actually, what we can do is, you can actually click on action and click on engagement tool and click on generate CSRF POC, and we will already get a CSRF POC. Okay, so this will be, we will use in real life. Now, what is real life? When you are doing bug bounty hunting or pen testing, what we can do? We can click on test in browser in order to copy the link, and whenever, like, let's send this to repeater once again, and let's just drop this. So I already have copied the other, this particular, by test in browser. I can see I have already given in. So what I will do, I will just paste, and when I will hit enter, I am getting a option to submit request. So this is the thing, you will send that particular link to your victim, and your victim will get something like this. You will get a page. Whenever your victim will click on the link, he will see there is a button to submit request, and whenever he will click on submit request, he will see the email will get updated. Or you can automatically do something like this, where you will click option include auto submit screen, and if you just click on regenerate, then you don't need to click on anything. So at that point, what you can do, you can just test in browser, copy, you click on this link. You don't need to click on submit request. It will automatically get clicked, and the email will get updated automatically, as you can see. Now, in order to solve the lab, we need to just do the ways as lab is defined. So let's just do in order to solve the lab. So we'll just go to the expert server in order to solve the lab. So they are saying you have to upload the script in here, as you can see. Now what I will do, I need the session, and I will paste it in the body. So this is the body, you can see. And what I will do here, I will copy this HTML. All right, let's just this is just creating more problem for me. All right. Then click on copy HTML, and I will paste it here. Next, what I will do, I will store the exploit, And what I will do next is I will send this deliver the exploit to victim. So whenever victim will open this particular one, victim will open this. Actually, you will see the email will get updated for the victim. So that is how actually we can perform CSRF. So as I am holding this request, so at this point the lab is not solved, but it will be solved for you. In your case, the lab will get solved. Okay, no worry. So this is the way how you can exploit CSRF with no difference. This is a basic CSRF example. Okay, so at that point, I'm just not solving the lab. You can do it yourself. Just what you want to do, you need to do the same thing. But this is the way how you can exploit CSRF without any check. Now let's just go for if there is any kind of check is already there. So at that point, we need to do something different. So we'll go to the second lab now. So now it is being told here that this lab email change functionality is vulnerable to CSRF. It attempts to block CSRF attack, but only applies defenses to certain type of request. Just a minute, guys. Okay. So let's just access the lab. And in the meantime, what I will do, I will just clear the history. Okay, so history has been cleared. Let's just open the lab. And they have already given an username winner repeater. Let's just log in. So now what we can do, if we just make any random email, let's just give like abc@gmail.com, and let's just turn our pub suite on. If we click on the intercept on and click on update email, we'll get this request, and you can see now there's a CSRF token. You can see. Now we can action send this to repeater, and let's just turn the intercept off. We will exploit it without thing later on. Now we can see we have sent this request to repeater, right? Now one thing we need to check, if the server is verifying whether this CSRF token is present or not. So how we can check this? Let me show you. If we just send this request, we get 302 found, right? Now if I change the request method, like changing the post request to get, you can see we have changed the request method to get, right? Now if we delete the CSRF token, this whole parameter, and if we send the request, we can see we are getting 302 found. That means if we change the request method from post to get, the server is not checking whether the CSRF token is present or not. That means we are able actually to bypass the defenses, right? So in this way, we can actually do this thing. Means we can actually change our target email. So let's just do one thing. I will just change this to ABCD, and in order to solve, and I will do once again action engagement tool generate CSRF POC. We can see this is the POC is there. We'll go to the options. We'll include auto submit script and we'll click on regenerate. And this is get. Now what you can do, we can just click on test in browser, and the link that we'll get, if we send this link to the victim, it will get updated for our victim email. Okay. So instead what we'll do, we'll just copy HTML. So let's just go to the expert server. So I'll just click on store. And I'll just click on view exploit. And you can see abcd@gmail.com is already being changed. Now what I will do, I now next what I will do, I'll again store the exploit and I will deliver this exploit to victim. If it is not solved, maybe because the email was not changed, let me just change it once again. Now you can see the lab is being solved. So in this way, you will be able to solve the lab. So we have seen by changing the request method and from post to get, if we just remove the CSRF token, we were able to see that server is not validating the request method if we change it from post to get. So we have seen this one. Now let's go to another one. Here it is told CSRF token validation depend if the token being present or not. So let me clear the history. First, access the lab. So we have opened our lab. Now let's go to the account and let's log in using the winner credential that is already provided to us. So I'll give winner, Peter, and I'll log in. Now there is an again, what we need to do, we have to change the email address. So again, we'll do the same. Let's say abc@gmail.com. Turn our boxwood on, turn our intercept on, click on update email, forward over to that particular request. This request. Now we can see we got the same, and we have seen the CSI token is there too. Now I will send this request to repeater. Let me just start the intercept off actually, and let me just type here abcd@gmail.com. Now what I will do, I will try to change the request method. Change the request method like the way we did in previous one. See. And if we just remove the email, CSRF mail token, And if we send the request, we are getting 405 method not allowed. So that means in this thing, in this particular, if we change the request method, it doesn't actually allows us, right? So what we can do, let's just go to the proxy history. Let's sell this request once again to our particular one. Then this request again to repeater. Now what I will do, in the post request itself, I will remove. Let me just send the request once. And let me do the one thing. Let me just remove the CSRF token. And let me send the request. We are getting bad request. Now if I remove the whole CSRF parameter in the post request, and if I send the request, you are getting 302 found. So that means if I remove the whole parameter of this particular request in the post request itself, then we are able to bypass the protection. So the server is not checking if the CSRF token is there and not. Okay, even if we remove the whole parameter, server won't able to identify it. So now it's easy to exploit. We can just do engagement tool, generate CSRF POC, options, include auto submit script, regenerate. We'll copy the HTML. Now we'll go to the exploit server. And in the body, I will paste the HTML. Now what I can do, I will click on stored. I will view the exploit to see our email has been changed or not. Yes, we are able to change the email. So now we will send this request to victim in order to solve the lab. So here I will just change the value to ABCD, ABCDE. Then I will again store and I will deliver the exploit to victim. And you can see now we have solved the lab. So in this way, you can solve the lab and you can see how we are able to bypass the CSRF protection by removing the whole CSRF token completely. Let's do another lab. Now we'll do this one. Where CSRF token is not tied to user session. So here they are told this lab email change functionality is vulnerable to CSRF. It uses token to try to prevent CSRF attacks, but they are not integrated into the site session handling system. To solve the lab, user exploit to host. We have 2 accounts. Okay, so they have given 2 accounts for us. Now that's good. And there is also a hint. We cannot register as an email address that is already taken by another user. Okay, so let's just go to the access the lab. Here it is says CSRF token is not tied to user session. So let's just log in using winner and Peter. And this is the email. Now, what I will do is I will just once again open my burp, removing the history. I'll proxy the request through my burp suite. Turn the intercept on. give any email, just give any this one email and just click on update email. We'll intercept this request in our board and we get the same thing. Now I will send this action to repeater. I just drop the request here. It doesn't. So in the repeater itself, let's see one thing. If we send this request here, we are getting 302 found, right? That means we are able to change. Now let's try our previous old methods. So if I change the request method to get, and if I remove the CSRF token and send the request, you see method not allowed. So that method is not applicable. Now we'll do the thing that we used lastly. If we remove the whole CSRF token in the post parameter, and if I send the request, the bad request. So that means this method is also not allowed. So what we can do? Note, we have another account, Carlos Montoya. So what I will do, I will copy and I will open a new private window and I will log in into this account again. And here what I will do, I'll just go to the account and log in as the default user. It is then Carlos Montoya. So in a real life, what we have to do, you have to create two accounts in your target web application if you are testing it the vulnerability. Now what I will do here, I will just inspect the page and I will look for the CSRF token here. Just let me click on reload. Okay, let's just go to the inspector and search for CSRF. Let's do. And you can see there is a CSRF value. See, there's a token. So let's just copy this particular token. We got this particular copy. We have copied this token from this particular user, like we have got in the private window. Now we'll replace the token here. See, this is a different token, and the previous one was different. Now, if we send the request and just change the name to, let me add two things, and if I send the request, we get a 302 found. That means if we change the CSRF token of A with B, like if we swap the token of A with B, then we are able to perform the CSRF attack. Now, we have got to know how we can do this. So what I will do, I will just create a POC of this, like engagement tool, generate CSRF POC. Click on options, include auto submit script, click on regenerate. I'll copy the HTML because we are trying to solve the lab, right? So to solve the lab, I'll just go to exploit server. In the body, we just place it, click on stored, click on view exploit in order to see if we are able to change this request or not. Okay, invalid CSRF token. That means we need to change this token once again. Okay, because we have used this one. So this token is one-time use. So we have to change this token. So let's just do it once again. And we have got a new CSRF value. So we need to use this right now. So this thing you need to careful, because sometimes the CSRF token is a one-time use. So in some web application, you can use a token more than one time, but some web application has only one time token. So let's just change the token here once again. And store. Click on view exploit. You can see we are able to do so. So in order to solve the lab, what we need to do, we once again need to change this email, but before that, let me edit the email also a little bit. Now we need to change the CSRF value once again. So I will again reload the page. So we again got a new CSRF value. I will copy it and I will change the value here. I'll click on stored and deliver the expert to victim in order to solve the lab. And you can see the lab is solved. So you can see we can perform CSRF by swapping the token of A with the token of B. That is something useful to us we got. And that is interesting. So let's just close the tab. Let's just do another lab for CSRF. So we need to keep all these checklists into our mind. We need to always think of this thing in our mind. Next is CSRF, where token is tied to a non-session cookie. So again, there is another. So here you can see this lab email change function is vulnerable to CSRF. And it uses token to try to prevent CSRF attack, but they are not fully integrated into the site session handling system. Okay, so let's just see what we can do. So let's just access the lab. And here we also have two accounts. So here we need to do something like that, maybe, or something different. So let me just clear the history. Click on box to intercept on. Okay, let me just at first just let me just log into the account. So it is winner and Peter. Now there is option to update email. So let me just give anything like abc@gmail.com. Click on both suit, turn intercept on, go to update email, get the request, send this to repeater, and let me drop it here. So go to the repeater and let's do all of the checks that we performed previously. And one thing we can see, there is an additional CSRF key. You can see this here. So this thing, it will be gonna be interesting. Anyway. The key version that we get, there is an additional CSRF check. So most probably what happens, both CSRF key and the CSRF value, both are being checked at least. So instead of doing the previous, I will directly do one thing. If the CSRF token is tied to CSRF cookie. So how we can do this? I will try to, first I will send this particular request and I got a 302 found. And I will try to change by adding a parameter token and I will try to see. And I got an invalid CSRF token. That means yes, the CSRF key and the CSRF thing both are tied. That means they are checking both. Or let me just add, if I add something to the CSRF key and send the request, again we got. So this means the CSRF key is also being checked here. Now, this is interesting. So CSRF token is tied to the CSRF key. Now what I will do, what I will try to get the CSRF token of another user and I will replace it here and I will send. Like the same thing we did in the previous lab. Okay. So what I will do, I will open a new private account, private window, and I will just copy the URL, paste it, go to my account, log in as another username, that is Carlos and Montoya maybe. Now what I will do, please look for the CSRF token. We got a CSRF value. Double click it, copy it, and let me just change this value. And if I send the request, we got a bad request. Now this is problematic because even if we change the CSRF token with the previous, we are not getting it. Now what I will do, I will submit a CSRF valid token and the CSRF key of another user. So how can I get the CSRF key? So for this reason, let's just go to the network, and if we just reload the page, I have to see the cookies, right? So there is a CSRF key. So let's just change the key. And now let me change the token. Alright. Now don't think they are same, though they start with QA, but the end you can see they are different. So CSRF key and CSRF token both are different. Now if I send the request, and we are getting a 302 found. But there is a problem. We have got the CSRF key and CSRF cookie from other user, but how we are able to inject the cookie? This is problematic for us, right? Because in a POC, what we have seen when we generate a CSRF POC, if we generate like this, there is no cookie option, as you can see. So in order to exploit the lab, we need to inject a CSRF key into the user session, and then we need to send the CSRF attack to the victim. So we need to look for something like any options in the page where we get something important. So let's just go to the home. So let's just look for options. So there is a search option, right? If I search something, Yogi, if I search, now if I view, go to the proxy and let me check my history. If I go to the search Yogi, we can see if I search for Yogi, in the last search term, we can see in the cookie, whatever we search, it get inserted into the cookie, right? So if I send this request to repeater, and we can try to inject a cookie from here. Like let me add some null byte character like %0d, the null byte character %0d %0a. So this can be also be compared to the CRLF injection actually. This is actually something known as CRLF injection. So in the last injection class, I have told you guys regarding this. So actually what we are doing, we are injecting CRLF. Now we try to inject CSRF key here. So if I send this request, we have got, we can see, we have successfully set the CSRF key, as you can see. So now what we can do, we need to make some changes here. What changes? Let's create a CSRF POC and let's just generate a new token at first. Always. Okay, so this is the same thing. You can see they had the CSR token has remained same. So this is not a one-time token actually. But still, anyway, so oh sorry, what why are doing it? We have to do it here. So it has remained same. Now what we need to do, we need to inject the cookie. That is important to us. So at first, let me just do this thing into auto submit script and regenerate it. And here just change the name to abcd@gmail.com. And we need to actually make something changes here. What changes we need to do? Instead of the here script.script, we have to remove it and we have to include something known as imjsrc tag, followed by the URL that we already used, like this URL, the key URL. So let's just copy this URL and we have to paste this URL here, because here we are actually using the injecting the thing. Then we need to close the tag, followed by on error equal to document dot form. Sorry, there will be document dot forms actually. Dot submit. Now this is the thing that we need to add. This one. Now we need to copy this test in browser. Let's just copy the HTML. And we'll just go to the expert server. We store the exploit. We deliver the exploit to victim. Wait, let me just view the exploit first. Invalid CSRF token. Okay, so we are due to change the token once. So let me just go to the network. So this should be the why they are saying the invalid CSRF token. The token will be same. Let me just do one thing. Let me just log out. Carlos Montaya. The same thing is there. Why there should not be any problem, but so let me just do one thing, test in browser and let me see if the thing is going on properly or not. So somehow there is a loss in the CSRF token, though I don't get it why there is a they're saying there is a invalid CSRF token. It shouldn't be the case. Maybe the CSRF token there is a problem in the post figure account. That's why they are not updating. So don't worry, but it will be there for when you will be solving the lab. Maybe this problem will get solved out. But actually, this is the way how you can actually solve the lab. As we can see, they are not updating the CSRF token here. So most probably there is a problem from the Portfigure server itself. They're not updating it. So if you just again do it, and if you just even if you do control you, look for CSRF. They're not updating it. That's why. So they need to update it. That's why it's not they're saying invalid CSRF token. Anyway, no problem. So when you will be solving the lab, you won't get this problem. So, but this is the way I showed you the method. So just recreate it when you will be solving the lab. So that's it for CSRF. And there are few labs again, which you will do as your work. You will try to find the way out. What are the other methods that you can do in order to exploit the CSRF? So I have showed you 5 labs, and this is the way. Make a checklist of how you can do CSRF. First, we have seen when there is no protection. Then we have seen by changing the request method. Then we have seen by just removing the whole CSRF token in the post method. Then we have seen if the CSR is tied to the session by swapping S token with this token. And last we have seen if there is a additional check of CSRF key, we need to change both of them with the B user, right? That's how we can do it. So additionally, how we can prevent CSRF vulnerabilities? So primary defense is use a CSRF token, but again we can see that can be bypassed. There are additional difference like use of same site cookies. Like when you are actually clicking on the exploit, we are hosting that URL in our browser. But if you are if we add a policy like only same site cookies should be accepted, like the request should only accept if the site is same. If we implement this particular policy, then no one will be able to exploit CSRF. Then inadequate defense, use of referral header. So you can see how should CSRF token be generated. This is an unpredictable with high entropy similar to session token. It should be generated. It should be tied to user session validated before the relevant action is executed. And you can also see hidden field of an HTML form that is submitted using a post request method, custom request header token submitted in the URL query are less secure. Token generally should not be transferred within the cookies. So these are all of the CSRF token defenses that generally you need to apply as a developer in order to prevent CSRF attacks. So that's it for the CSRF. Next, we will be learning about the SSTI or the server side template injection. So let's go to it. So what is an SSTI or server side template injection? So server side template injection or SSTI is when an attacker is able to use native template syntax to inject a malicious payload into a template, which is then executed in the server side. Template engines are designed to generate web pages by combining fixed template with volatile data. This allows attacker to inject arbitrary template directly in order to manipulate the template engine, often enabling them to take full control of the server. So how a typical vulnerable code generally look like? So there are several libraries or framework that use a template like Jinja, Flask, Mako, Twig, even Python or Ruby, etc. So let's see if a URL look like this. And after that, if we add 7 cross 7 here within a bracket, and if we get the result 49, that means if we are using our target URL or target browser to able to use the browser like a command or operating system. Like here we are forcing the server to operate the function of 7 cross 7, that is 49, right? So it's actually multiplying it. So you are forcing the server to act as a calculator. So this can be elevated. We can force our server to execute code and thereby achieving a remote code execution or achieving a complete RC on our system. So this is how actually we can find SSTI or server side template injection, and thereby we can take a whole control of the server. So there are some mitigation. If user side template are a business template, how should it can be implemented? So these are all the mitigation. You can just read it out how you can do it. So basically we'll need to see how we can test for SSTI. That is most important. And what are the methods that we need to go through. So if it's based on Twig, then we need to use certain functions. So generally a Twig vulnerable web application project, like the vulnerability will be look like this. So there is no control check on the server itself to look for it. And similarly, just like Twig, there will be other like Flask. If there is a Flask or Ginger 2 is running templating engine, so a vulnerable web application code will look like just like this. So this is vulnerable to both XSS and SSTI. So we can just exploit this particular page by curling up a request like this. So how to test? First, we need to detect the template injection vulnerability point. So we need to determine in which endpoint we can actually test for template injection. Second is we need to identify what template the server side is using. Third is to build the exploit. So in order to test for template injection vulnerability, we can just use common expression just like this. And there is actually very good checklist of how we can go one by one actually. Just let me just show you the way. What the? Okay, it's just loading. Just let me let's load this page for a while. Then I'm showing you guys. Let this particular page load. Yeah, it's been loaded. So yeah, let me just show you. Yeah. So how we can actually test by following this. So at first we will use this particular one. If this fails, we'll go use this payload. If this fails, again we'll go for this one. And if it occurs, then we'll after that we'll just go to use. And if this again this command is executed, then we can identify the template that using as Smarty. If this fails, we'll use this. And even if this gets executed, we can identify the template that in the server side is Mac code. And even if it gets failed, then we don't know. Most possible there will be no template injection. Here from here, if this get executed, we can understand it's a ginger 2 or twig. And if this also gets failed, then we can not know what type of template the server side is using. Okay, so we can actually get more details of it, how we can actually use this by solving a lab in Portswigger. We'll get more insight. So we'll just search for Portswigger SSTI and we'll solve the lab. So actually, let me just close the browser and I will open my PubSuite once again. That's better. Okay, sorry. Okay. Okay. So we have opened our tab. Now let's just go to the all the labs. The Gitbook link. Okay, the Gitbook link. So you can see this is the link of the Gitbook. Blacktoy.gitbook.io. Let me just share in the chat. So I am just sharing it here in the chat itself. Please just pass it on to everyone. And sorry. Next is the books.hackstick.xyz. So I will just send this here too. These are the ones. Okay. Anyway, let's just go to the lab and just solve some template. So we can see they say this lab is vulnerable to server-side template injection, and they are already specified the template, so we don't have to identify the template. They are saying that the server is using ERB template, and what we have to find moral.txt. It is located in the Carlos home directory. So the directory is possibly is home/Carlos. So we just access the lab. So next thing I'll do, I'll just turn my Sorry. So nothing in the history. Don't worry. So I will just click on the first thing. So this product is out of stock. Okay, no problem. If there is anything in the second, nothing is there. Okay, so we need to look for any parameter first. At first, let me do one thing. I am just adding this to scope in order to prevent any other URL, because there are a lot of other URL that are coming due to my extension. So let me do one thing. I will just only show only in scope item apply. Now we need to see which URL has parameter. So these are the parameter, but this is just product ID. And this also has a parameter, which is an unfortunately this is out of stock. So I will send this request to my repeater and I will send it. Now here I will try to do server-side injection in this particular parameter. So which server-side template injection will do? We can, if we don't know the template, we would have used this particular method or an error generating method. But we already know the template, right? They are already saying we are using ERB document. ERB template is there. So just we'll search ERB here. You can see, yeah, these are the ERB template. So I will use this one. Copy. And I will paste this here. I will URL encode it by typing Ctrl U. After URL encoding it, I will click on send. And I have send the request. Now if I search for 49, let's see if I get anything 49 here. And you can see we have got a 49 here. So 7x7 is being executed in the server. So that means this particular endpoint is vulnerable to SSTI. Okay, so we have detected it. Now what thing we need to do? They have told we have to delete the modal.txt. So general Linux command to delete it will be rm/home/carlos modal.txt. But we need to find a way in order to execute this command, right? So let's see if there is something in here. And we can see, so there is actually a code. They are said if we use this system, and after that we can execute command. You can say execute the code. So we'll just use this one. Instead of who am I, we will use rm to remove the carlos.txt file. So just copy it here. Instead of who am I, rm home carlos modal.txt. Will URL encode it, send the request. And if I just see, we can see we have solved the lab. See. So in this way, this is an example of basic SSTI. Right. Next, just see another lab. Let's just open this one. So how we can do it? At first, let me clear the history. Next is the lab, and here we can see here it has told tornado template, and we can log into by using the following credential winner.peter. Okay, so they have provided a credential too, and they have situated template winners in tornado. So I'll go to my account. Okay, sorry, winner and Peter is there. So this is the 5D most probably. So let me just add this particular thing to scope once again. So let's just add this to scope. Okay, now we'll get it. Now if you just click on first name and submit, did we get something here? Change blog authority view. And here we have got something first name. Okay, so we need to look for some blog and if we need to note something. So if we go to one blog and if we just post any comment, we can see we are able to post a comment in the name of Peter. Now we have seen there is an user dot first name here. There is an option. So here is an option where we can actually inject Ssti payload. Maybe I'm not sure though. And they have already set a tornado template. So let's look for tornado here. And this is the way to do tornado template. So what I will do, I will copy this. They're not copying from here, I guess. Okay, so they're not copying from here. Maybe I send this request to repeater. And if I send this request, there is a 302 found. So if we just go to this and load this page, we are getting a internal server error followed by a list. And we can see there is a syntax error. So we think I need to balance the payload. So if you want to balance the payload, we need to close the bracket like this. And if you again send the request, if we just reload it again, now we can see our payload is being executed 49. See. So that means there is an SSK in this particular endpoint. Next thing what we need to do, we need to execute the command to delete moral.txt. How we can do it? Let's see in this particular one. If we just go, we can see we need to use this particular one. First, we need to import the OS command. Then we can execute it. So what I will do, I will first copy this and after clicking on import OS, let's just click on this one. And if I click on send, and if I go to and reload the page, you can see we got Carlos Peter because we have executed who am I command. So who am I command is executed here. So here we have to do rm plus home plus Carlos plus modal dot txt. And if we send the request, most probably our lab will be solved. But it's not solved. Maybe it's asking for a yeah, you can see now the lab is solved. So what we did, the lab was not being solved because we didn't URL encode it. So after URL encoding is the lab is solved. So that's it for this one. So let's just solve another lab. Till then, let me just get the history, intercept of. Let's just access the lab. And here we can see there is the template engine. We have to identify the template engine. Okay, and then we have to delete it. So they have not told what template engine it is. So we have to identify it first. This is interesting. I'll go to my account. I log in using the they have provided. Now let me just document everything to pass everything into part. So there is a way for edit template. Okay, that's a good option. And there is something is there. And if we look, there is something known as product name, stock, and product price. Most probably. So if we what happened if I just remove the whole thing? If we just preview, only 248 is left. Okay. So let's just try to throw an error. And if we throw an error by removing something, we got this is an example, it's a free marker template. So by throwing an error, we are able to identify what template it is. So free marker, it is identified here. So we'll search for free marker here. And this is free marker template, you can see. So let's use a normal free marker template. We'll copy this. And we'll just click on preview. We got 49. See. So next thing what we need to do, we need to delete model.txt. So we need to execute arbitrary code. So let's see what is there is anything there. So for this reason, actually it is something is there, this one. We can actually instead of this, so we can use this one or this one or this one. You can use any one of those. So let's just copy it. Copy. Sorry, we don't need the bar suit actually. You just click on ID, and if you just click on preview, we are getting UID of Carlos everything. So what we need to do here, we need to execute our command rm Carlos model.txt, and if you just click on save, our lab is solved. Okay, that is. So that's it. So there are few other labs which I am just giving you to solve it by yourself. So let's one, you can do it yourself. But don't worry, everything you will get in this particular bookstricks.xyz. Whatever the template it is, whatever you need to do, you can do it everything from here. So this actually URL is very interesting, and whether it's any template you need, whether it's any particular payload you need, if you need to identify your phosphor payload, you can also get it here. So that's it for SSTI, and that's it for CSRF we have learned. Yeah. So that's we are going to end our session. I hope you have learned anything, and if you have any doubt, you can ask me. So I'm just stop sharing the session here. मोबाइल चार्जर का तो चार्जर क्या Sir, please solve the lab with custom exploit. You want me to solve that at custom exploit कौन सा है? STI. और इतना सब मैं करूंगा तो आप लोग क्या करोगे? Just a minute. Custom exploit was that's the last lab. Another question is there. Are this method will work on a real life scenario if we test for CSRF and SST? Yes, both work on real life. These are meant to work on real life. That's why the thing is there. Yes, they will work. Don't worry. You can try. Any real test case we have done? POC you are saying. Just a second. Let me just see. If I have any POC, I am just showing. Just let me check that first. Hmm. Hmm. Actual true. Real test case here, I'm just checking. I have a lot of POC on of me, so I have to check as there is a lot of POC there. Um, any POC I have reported. I have reported a lot of POCs. But generally what happens in CSRF, I don't record the video because you just need to give the CSRF link. Okay, just link of what page they're vulnerable and they will check for yourself generally. So that's the reasons of CSRF POC. Just check still. Let me just see. Yeah, my screen is not visible because I am just checking at first myself whether I have that particular POC or not. That's why my screen is not visible. Okay, as you can Let's see if you are seeing the screen. I have reported one to next this particular, and there was a request verification token, and I have generated CSRF POC. You can see I have reported. And I was able to change the billing address here. And here, what is happening? I was able to remove something from the cart. I have not video POC because they don't need it. I just give them the code. See, actually, this is an example of real POC I have done. And SSTI, I have performed SSTI on some private pen test project, but I can't share it because they are not on bug bounty platform. I have still not reported any stay on bug bounty platform, but I have reported SSTI while performing pen test project for companies. So those reports are confidential and I can't share it. Yes. Any more question? Yeah, in my previous session, you have seen me removing card. Oh, good. Yeah, thank you. Billing address is sometimes sensitive, sometimes not. So it generally depends on the company whether they will accept or not. CSRF is actually very much sensitive. I have seen in integrity and Acheron, they don't accept a lot of CSRF and a lot on very point. Like they only going to accept CSRF if it is very much sensitive. So CSRF, don't just go for CSRF at this present time. It's just better if you are getting CSRF on very like endpoint like to change password, or if you are trying to disable OTP, or if you are changing the email address, username, then only CSRF, or if you are changing the name or profile picture, then only it will be valid. For billing address and stuff, even the removing the card, though I have reported, but still they are not valid at 2021. Sorry, at 2023. They are not being validated since 2022. So don't report lame CSRF. If you are towards a bug hunter, just I will say don't concentrate much on CSRF. Yeah. Thank you guys for the session.
Thank you for an amazing session, sir. There was a bit of delay in posting the quiz link. The quiz link has now been posted as the question answers are already answered by you. So we will just be moving ahead uh, with the closure of this session, and we will be closing the quiz form in the next 15 minutes. That will be exactly at 8 o'clock.
Thank you, guys. So,
Thanks a lot for giving us your valuable time.
thank you.